The morning Jessie Brennan woke up, and her mama did not come to brush her hair. She knew something was terribly wrong in their small cabin outside Rico, Colorado. It was August of 1883, and the sun had barely crept over the San Juan Mountains when Jessie found her mother cold in bed, her heart having simply stopped sometime in the night. Jessie was 20 years old, alone in a territory that did not forgive weakness, and the only thing she could think about as neighbors helped bury her mother 3 days later was that no one would ever brush her hair the way Mama had done every single morning since she was a little girl. The ritual had been sacred between them. Mama would sit Jessie down on the wooden stool by the window, would hum old songs from Kentucky, while she worked the bristles through Jessie's thick auburn hair, counting 100 strokes exactly. She would braid it or pin it, or let it fall down Jessie's back in waves, but always with such tenderness that Jessie felt loved straight through to her bones. Now Mama was gone, buried on the hillside under a cottonwood tree, and Jessie stood in front of the cracked mirror in their cabin trying to manage her tangled hair herself, and failing miserably. Rico was a silver mining town, rough and growing fast in 1883, with more saloons than churches and more men than women by a ratio that made a young woman alone a dangerous proposition. Jessie had her mother's small cabin and the vegetable garden they had tended together, but she needed work if she was going to survive the coming winter. Her father had died in a mining accident when she was 12, and Mama had supported them by taking in laundry and mending, skills she had taught Jessie well. Jessie put up a notice at the general store offering laundry and seamstress services, and within a week she had more work than she could handle. Miners were desperate for clean clothes and mended shirts, and they paid well enough. But every morning Jessie struggled with her hair, her arms aching as she tried to recreate what her mother had done so effortlessly. And every morning she failed. She started wearing it in a simple bun, messy and unflattering, because she could not manage anything else. Nathan Yates noticed her one morning in September when he brought his shirts to her cabin. He was a cowboy, not a miner, which made him unusual in Rico. He worked on the Murphy Ranch 10 miles outside town, running cattle in the high country, and he came to town once a month for supplies and to get his clothes properly cleaned. He was 24, tall and lean with sun-darkened skin and dark brown hair that curled at his collar. His eyes were an unexpected pale blue, startling in his tanned face. "Morning, Miss Brennan," he said, removing his hat when she opened the door. "Got 6 shirts that need washing, and this one has a torn shoulder seam if you can mend it." Jessie took the bundle of clothes, noticing how he looked at her with a gentleness that most men in Rico did not possess. "I can have them ready in 4 days, Mr. Yates. Nathan is fine," he said. "I heard about your mother. I am sorry for your loss." The kindness in his voice made Jessie's throat tighten. "Thank you." He lingered on her porch, turning his hat in his hands. "If you need anything, wood chopped or heavy lifting, you let me know. It is not right, you being out here alone." Jessie lifted her chin. "I can manage." "I am sure you can," Nathan said quietly, "but that does not mean you should have to." He left before she could respond, riding back toward the ranch on a rangy sorrel horse. Jessie watched him go, something warm and unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Most men who came to her door looked at her like she was something to be taken. Nathan Yates had looked at her like she was someone to be protected. 2 weeks later, Nathan returned for his clean shirts. Jessie had them folded and ready, the mended seam nearly invisible. He paid her and thanked her, then hesitated at the door again. "Miss Brennan, I know it is not my place, but your hair," he said, then stopped, color rising in his face. "Forgive me, that was improper." Jessie touched the messy bun self-consciously. What about my hair?" Nathan looked genuinely distressed. "It just seems like it is causing you trouble. This morning I saw you trying to fix it outside the general store, and you looked so frustrated I almost offered to help, but that would have been entirely inappropriate." To Jessica's surprise, she laughed. It was the first time she had laughed since Mama died. "You know how to fix a woman's hair." "I had 3 sisters growing up in Texas," Nathan said. "Mama taught all us boys to help them. She said there was no such thing as women's work and men's work, just work that needed doing." He paused. "But I should not have mentioned it. I apologize." Something cracked open in Jessica's chest. "My mama used to brush my hair every morning," she heard herself say. 100 strokes. She would braid it or pin it, and I never learned properly because she always did it for me. Now she is gone and I cannot seem to manage it myself." The pain in Nathan's eyes was real. "I am sorry, that must make her absence even harder." "It does," Jessie whispered. Nathan stood there for a long moment, clearly wrestling with something. Finally he said, "I come to town every 2 weeks for supplies. If it would not be too forward, I could help with your hair those mornings, just so you do not have to struggle with it." Jessie knew she should refuse. Letting a man she barely knew touch her hair was scandalous. But the thought of having that ritual back, of having someone care for her the way Mama had, was so powerfully appealing that she found herself nodding. "Tomorrow morning?" she asked. "Before the town wakes up fully, tomorrow morning," Nathan agreed. He arrived at dawn with the sun painting the mountains gold and pink. Jessie led him into her cabin, her heart hammering nervously. She had her mother's hairbrush ready, and the pins and ribbons Mama had always used. "How did your Mama do it?" Nathan asked gently. "I sat on this stool by the window," Jessie said. "She stood behind me and brushed 100 strokes, then braided it or pinned it depending on the day." Nathan nodded. "May I?" Jessie sat on the stool, and Nathan carefully removed the pins from her hair, letting it fall down her back. It reached past her waist, thick and wavy and hopelessly tangled. He picked up the brush and began working through the ends first, gentle and patient, exactly the way Mama had always done. Jessie closed her eyes. The sensation was so achingly familiar that tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. Nathan paused. "Am I hurting you?" he asked, alarmed. "No," Jessie managed. "It just reminds me of her." Nathan resumed brushing, slow and careful. "My Mama used to say that caring for someone's hair was an act of love. She said it was sacred, being trusted with something so personal." He counted the strokes quietly under his breath. When he reached 100, he said, "How would you like it today?" "A braid," Jessie said. "The way Mama used to do for every day." Nathan's fingers worked through her hair, braiding it neatly and securing it with a ribbon. When he finished, Jessie looked in the mirror and saw herself the way she used to look when Mama was alive. The braid was perfect, smooth and tight and exactly right. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will be back in 2 weeks," Nathan said. "If you want me to, I want you to," Jessie said. Thus began a ritual that would change both their lives. Every 2 weeks, Nathan came to Jessica's cabin at dawn and brushed her hair with 100 careful strokes, then braided or pinned it however she wished. They did not talk much at first. The act itself was intimate enough without words. But gradually, as September turned to October and the aspens blazed gold in the high country, they began to share pieces of their lives. Nathan told her about growing up on a ranch in Texas, the youngest of 6 children. His father had died of fever when Nathan was 16, and he had worked various ranches since then, sending money home to his mother and sisters. He had come to Colorado 2 years ago, drawn by the high country and the promise of steady work at the Murphy Ranch. Jessie told him about her childhood in Kentucky, how her parents had come west when she was 8 seeking a better life. How her father had been a dreamer who believed the mining boom would make them rich, and how he had died for that dream, leaving Mama to raise Jessie alone. How Mama had been the strongest person Jessie had ever known, never complaining, always finding joy in small things like morning light on the mountains or the first tomatoes from the garden. "She sounds like she was remarkable," Nathan said one morning in late October, his fingers working through Jessie's hair. "She was," Jessie said. "I miss her so much some days I cannot breathe." Nathan's hand briefly touched her shoulder, a gesture of comfort. "Grief is like that. When my father died, I felt like the world should stop turning, but it just kept going like nothing had happened." "Yes," Jessie said. "Exactly like that." As the weeks passed, Jessie found herself living for those mornings when Nathan came. The ritual of having her hair brushed connected her to her mother's memory, but it was becoming about more than that. It was about Nathan himself, his gentleness and patience, the way he spoke to her like she mattered, like her thoughts and feelings were important. He never pressed for more than she was willing to give, never tried to take advantage of the intimacy of their arrangement. The town noticed, of course. In a place like Rico, nothing stayed secret for long. Mrs. Henderson at the general store asked Jessie pointed questions about that cowboy who came calling so regularly. Old Mr. Cartwright, who ran the livery, made comments about propriety. But Nathan always arrived at dawn when the streets were empty and left before the town fully woke, and Jessie kept her door closed against gossip. In November, the first serious snow fell, dusting the mountains white and promising a harsh winter ahead. Nathan arrived one morning looking worried. "The ranch is closing the high pastures for winter," he said as he brushed Jessie's hair. "Most of the cattle are being driven down to lower elevation. I will be staying in the bunkhouse through the cold months, but I will not be able to get to town as often. The trail can be impassable when the snows come hard." Jessie felt something like panic. "How often can you come?" "Maybe once a month," Nathan said quietly. "I am sorry." Jessie was silent while he finished braiding her hair. When he was done, she turned on the stool to face him. "I look forward to these mornings more than anything else in my life." Nathan's blue eyes darkened. "So do I." "It is not just about my hair anymore," Jessie said, her heart racing. "You know that." "I know," Nathan said, "but I am just a cowboy, Jessie. I do not have much to offer. I have been saving my wages, hoping to have my own place someday, but it will be years before I can afford land." "I do not care about land," Jessie said. "I care about you." Nathan reached out and cupped her face in his calloused hand. "I have been half in love with you since the first morning I brushed your hair and you cried because it reminded you of your mother. I wanted to hold you and promise you that you would never have to be alone again." "Why did you not?" Jessie whispered. "Because you were grieving," Nathan said. "Because I did not want to take advantage. Because I wanted you to want me for myself, not just because I could give you something you had lost." Jessie covered his hand with hers. "I do want you for yourself. You are kind and gentle and good. You see me, really see me, not just as a woman alone who might be convenient or available. You make me feel safe." Nathan leaned forward and kissed her, soft and careful, and Jessie felt warmth flood through her entire body. She had been kissed before, clumsy stolen kisses from boys back in Kentucky, but nothing like this. This felt like coming home. "I will come as often as I can this winter," Nathan promised when they finally pulled apart, "even if I have to ride through snowstorms." "Be safe," Jessie said. "I could not bear it if something happened to you." "Nothing will happen to me," Nathan said. "I have too much to live for now." Winter settled over Rico with a vengeance. Snow piled high in the streets and the temperature dropped so low that water froze in buckets overnight. Jessie kept busy with laundry and mending, grateful for the income and the work that kept her hands occupied. But the days were long and lonely, and she ached for Nathan. He came when he could, fighting his way through snow and cold to reach her cabin at dawn. On those mornings, Jessie felt like the world was right again. Nathan would brush her hair with frozen fingers that gradually warmed, would braid it carefully while telling her about life at the ranch, about the cattle and the other cowboys and the endless work of winter feeding. "There is a man at the ranch, Caleb Morrison, who has noticed how often I come to town," Nathan said one December morning. "He asked if I was courting someone." "What did you tell him?" Jessie asked. "I said yes," Nathan said. "I said I was courting the most remarkable woman I had ever met, and if I had any luck at all, she might someday agree to marry me." Jessie's breath caught. "Nathan." "I know it is too soon," Nathan said quickly. "I know you are still grieving your mother, and I do not have much to offer yet. But I wanted you to know my intentions are honorable. When I come here, when I brush your hair, I am not just passing time. I am courting you properly, the way you deserve." Jessie turned to face him, her half-braided hair falling over her shoulder. "If you asked me to marry you right now, I would say yes." Nathan's face transformed with joy. "Then I am asking, Jesse Brennan, will you marry me?" "Yes," Jessie said and kissed him. They married in January of 1884 in the small church in Rico with Mrs. Henderson and her husband as witnesses. Jessie wore her mother's best dress, altered to fit, and Nathan wore a new shirt Jessie had made for him. It was a simple ceremony, but when the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Jessie felt her mother's presence like a blessing. They spent their wedding night in Jessie's cabin, which was now their cabin. Nathan was gentle and patient, and Jessie discovered that being loved by him was even more wonderful than she had imagined. In the morning, before the sun rose, Nathan woke her and sat her on the stool by the window. "What are you doing?" Jessie asked sleepily. "Brushing your hair," Nathan said, picking up the brush. "I promised I would not stop, and I will not, every morning as long as we both live." Tears filled Jessie's eyes. "You do not have to, we are married now." "I want to," Nathan said simply. "Your mama did this because she loved you. I do it for the same reason." He brushed 100 strokes, careful and tender, just as he had done every time before. Then he braided her hair and kissed the top of her head. "There, beautiful." "I love you," Jessie whispered. "I love you too," Nathan said. The winter was hard, but they faced it together. Nathan continued working at the Murphy Ranch, riding out before dawn and returning after dark, but he was always home to brush Jessie's hair in the morning. It did not matter if he was exhausted or the weather was brutal. He kept his promise. In February, Jessie discovered she was pregnant. She told Nathan one morning while he was braiding her hair, and his hands stilled in surprise before he spun her around and lifted her off the stool, holding her close. "A baby," he said, wonder in his voice. "We are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" Jessie asked. "Happy does not begin to cover it," Nathan said. "I am terrified and thrilled and grateful all at once." The pregnancy progressed through the spring and into the summer. Jessie continued her laundry and mending work as long as she could, saving every penny for the baby. Nathan worked extra hours at the ranch, determined to provide for his growing family. And every single morning, no matter what else was happening, he brushed Jessie's hair. "What if something happens to me in childbirth?" Jessie asked one morning in August, heavily pregnant and frightened. "What if I die like so many women do?" Nathan's hands were steady in her hair. "You are not going to die. I will not allow it." "You cannot control that," Jessie said. "Then I will hope and pray and believe," Nathan said, "because I cannot imagine this world without you in it." Jessie gave birth in September of 1884, laboring through the night while Mrs. Henderson attended her and Nathan paced the cabin floor, terrified and helpless. Just before dawn, their daughter was born, small and red-faced and screaming lustily. "She is perfect, Mrs. Henderson said, placing the baby in Jessica's arms. "A perfect little girl." Nathan sat beside the bed, his eyes bright with tears. "She has your hair." The baby did have auburn hair, just a wisp of it, curling against her tiny head. They named her Rose, after Jessica's mother, and Nathan held her with such tenderness that Jessie fell even more deeply in love with him. The first morning after Rose was born, Jessie was still too weak to get out of bed. But Nathan brought her the brush and sat beside her, carefully working through her tangled hair. "You should rest," Jessie protested. "And break my streak," Nathan said with a smile. "Not a chance. Besides, this is how I start my day right, taking care of you." As Rose grew, the morning ritual expanded. Nathan would brush Jessica's hair while Jessie nursed the baby, all three of them together in the quiet dawn. It became the foundation of their family, that peaceful time before the world intruded, when they were just together. By the time Rose was 6 months old, Nathan had saved enough money to make a down payment on a small parcel of land 5 miles from Rico. It was not much, just 20 acres with a creek running through it, but it was theirs. They spent the spring and summer of 1885 building a house, a real house with 2 bedrooms and a proper kitchen. Friends from the ranch helped, and Jessie cooked for the work crews, and by autumn they were moving in. "Our own place," Jessie said, standing in the new kitchen with Rose on her hip. "I never thought we would have this." "It is just the beginning," Nathan said. "I am going to build us a ranch here, raise cattle and horses, give Rose brothers and sisters and a good life." He kept his promise. Over the next 5 years, Nathan built a successful small ranch while continuing to work for the Murphy outfit. Jessie managed their home and garden, took in occasional mending work, and raised Rose. In 1886, she gave birth to a son they named Samuel. In 1888, another daughter, Clara. And in 1890, another son, Thomas. Through it all, every single morning, Nathan brushed Jessica's hair. It did not matter if he had been up all night with a sick calf or if one of the children had kept them awake. It did not matter if it was Christmas morning or just another Tuesday. He woke Jessie before the sun rose, sat her on the stool he had built specially for this purpose, and brushed 100 strokes through her hair. "Why do you never get tired of this?" Jessie asked one morning in 1891. They had been married 7 years, and Nathan had brushed her hair more than 2,000 times. "Why would I get tired of it?" Nathan said, working the brush through her hair, which was now threaded with a few silver strands. "This is my favorite part of every day. This quiet time with you before the children wake and the work starts. This is when I remember how lucky I am." Rose, who was 6 years old, sometimes watched her father brush her mother's hair with solemn attention. One morning she asked, "Papa, will you brush my hair too?" Nathan smiled. "Come here, sweetheart." He sat Rose on a smaller stool beside her mother and brushed her hair with the same care he gave Jessie. From that day forward, he brushed both their hair every morning and later added Clara to the routine. The boys would sit on the floor and play quietly, and the whole family would start the day together in peace. In 1893, disaster struck the silver mining industry. The government stopped purchasing silver, and the price collapsed. Rico, which had been booming for a decade, suddenly went bust. Mines closed, men left in droves, and the town that had seemed so permanent began to empty. "We could lose everything," Jessie said, frightened. "If the town dies, who will buy our beef? How will we sell our cattle?" Nathan held her close. "We will find a way, we always do." He was right. While many ranchers went under, Nathan had been conservative with his money and had built relationships with buyers in other towns. He drove their cattle to Durango and Telluride, finding markets where others could not. It was hard work and long trips away from home, but they survived. The morning before Nathan had to leave for a 2-week cattle drive to Durango, he brushed Jesse's hair as always. "I hate leaving you," he said quietly. The children were still asleep, and the house was dark except for the lamp by the window. "I hate you leaving too," Jesse said. "But we need this sale." "I know," Nathan said, "but I will miss this. I will miss you." "I will be here when you get back," Jesse promised. Nathan finished braiding her hair and turned her to face him. "Do you remember that first morning I brushed your hair? You cried because it reminded you of your mother." "I remember," Jesse said. "I was so lonely and sad." "And now?" Nathan asked. "Now I have you and our children and this life we built together," Jesse said. "Now I am happy." "Good," Nathan said and kissed her. "That is all I ever wanted. To make you happy." The cattle drive was successful, and Nathan returned 2 weeks later with enough money to see them through the winter and beyond. Rico continued to decline, but the Yates ranch thrived. Nathan bought more land, expanded their herd, and built a barn and better fences. Jesse planted a large garden and fruit trees, canned and preserved, and made their house a home filled with love and laughter. The children grew. Rose became a serious, studious girl who loved reading and wanted to be a teacher. Samuel was adventurous and wild, always climbing trees and riding horses too fast. Clara was gentle and artistic, drawing pictures of everything she saw. Thomas, the baby, was cheerful and affectionate, following his father everywhere. Through all the changes and challenges, Nathan never once failed to brush Jesse's hair in the morning. There were times when it would have been easy to skip it. Times when he was injured and could barely lift his arm, but he pushed through the pain to keep his promise. Times when Jesse was sick and told him not to bother, but he brushed her hair anyway because he knew it would make her feel better. Times when they had argued the night before and were still angry with each other, but the morning ritual smoothed away the rough edges and reminded them why they had chosen each other. "Mama, why does Papa always brush your hair?" Clara asked one day when she was 8 years old. It was 1896, and the family was well established and prosperous. Jesse thought about how to answer. "Because my mama used to do it every morning when I was growing up. When she died, I could not do it properly myself, and I missed it terribly. Your papa started doing it for me, and he never stopped." "That is romantic," Rose said. She was 11 now, old enough to understand such things. "It is more than romantic," Jesse said. "It is a promise kept. It is love in action every single day. Anyone can say they love you. Your papa shows me." In 1898, Rose left home to attend the Teachers' College in Durango. Jesse cried the day they put her on the stagecoach, and Nathan held her hand tight. "She will be fine," he said. "We raised her strong and smart." "I know," Jesse said, "but she is my baby." "She will always be your baby," Nathan said. "But she is also her own person, ready to see the world." That night, Jessie could not sleep. She kept thinking about Rose as a little girl, watching Nathan brush Jessie's hair with such fascination. In the morning, Nathan found Jessie already awake, sitting by the window. "Could not sleep?" he asked gently. "Missing Rose," Jessie admitted. Nathan picked up the brush without a word and began his 100 strokes. The familiar rhythm calmed Jessie as it always did. By the time he finished braiding her hair, she felt more centered, more able to face the day. "Thank you," she said. "Always," Nathan replied. The new century arrived, and with it, more changes. Rico was a ghost of its former self, but the Yates ranch continued to prosper. Samuel, now 13, was already a skilled horseman and a huge help with the cattle. Clara was developing into a fine artist, and Thomas, at 9, was the family's sunshine. always making them laugh. In 1902, Rose came home from college engaged to a young lawyer she had met in Durango. His name was David Fletcher, and when he came to the ranch to ask Nathan's permission to marry Rose, Nathan questioned him thoroughly. "You love my daughter?" Nathan asked. "With all my heart," David said. "Will you treat her with respect and kindness every day, not just when it is easy?" Nathan asked. "I will," David promised. "Then you have my blessing," Nathan said. The wedding took place in June of 1903 at the ranch under the cottonwood trees. Rose was beautiful in a dress Jesse had sewn, and David looked at her with such devotion that Jesse cried happy tears. As Nathan walked Rose down the aisle, he whispered something in her ear that made her smile. Later, Jesse asked what he had said. "I told her that marriage is work, but it is the best work there is," Nathan said. "I told her to find the small rituals that connect you, the daily acts of love that make a life together. I told her to look for a man who will keep his promises even when it is hard." "You told her about brushing my hair," Jesse said. "I did," Nathan admitted. "I told her that is what love looks like, showing up day after day, doing the small things that matter." Jesse kissed him. "You are a good man, Nathan Yates." "I am a lucky man," Nathan said. "I get to love you." As the years passed, the ritual continued. Nathan's hair turned gray, and Jesse's turned silver. They were in their 40s now, their children growing up and starting their own lives. Rose and David had 2 children and lived in Durango. Samuel took over more and more of the ranch work, preparing to inherit it someday. Clara married a photographer from Telluride and moved away to pursue her art. Thomas declared he wanted to be a veterinarian and went off to study. Through it all, every morning, Nathan brushed Jesse's hair. When arthritis started to stiffen his hands, he worked through the pain. When his eyes weakened and he needed spectacles, he still counted out the 100 strokes. When a fall from a horse injured his shoulder and the doctor said he needed to rest it, he used his other arm. "You are going to hurt yourself," Jesse protested. "I am fine," Nathan insisted. "I made a promise." "Nathan, I release you from the promise," Jesse said. "I can brush my own hair now. I learned years ago." Nathan cupped her face in his weathered hands. "I do not do this because of a promise anymore. I do it because it is how I tell you I love you. It is how I start my day right. It is who we are." Jesse understood. The ritual had become part of their identity as a couple, part of the story of their love. It was the thing their children would remember, the legacy they would pass down. In 1910, they celebrated their 26th wedding anniversary. All 4 children came home for the occasion, bringing spouses and grandchildren. The ranch house was full of noise and laughter, and Jesse looked around at the family they had created and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. That night, she and Nathan sat on the porch after everyone had gone to bed, watching the stars over the mountains. "You ever think about that first morning I brushed your hair?" Nathan asked. "All the time," Jesse said. "I was so broken then. I missed my mama so much and I felt so alone." "You never have to be alone again," Nathan said. "I will be here as long as I am breathing." "And after that?" Jesse asked, trying to joke but hearing the fear in her own voice. Nathan took her hand. "After that, our children will remember how we loved each other. They will tell their children about the cowboy who brushed his wife's hair every morning for decades because her mama had done it and he would not stop. They will know what real love looks like." Jesse leaned her head on his shoulder. "That is a good legacy." "The best," Nathan agreed. The next morning, even though the house was full of family and there were grandchildren running around and 100 things to do, Nathan woke Jesse before dawn and brushed her hair. They were both in their late 40s now, their hands weathered by work and time, but the ritual was unchanged. Rose found them there and smiled. Papa is still doing this. Every morning, Jesse said proudly. I tell my girls about this, Rose said. I tell them this is what they should look for in a husband, someone who shows up day after day with love. Your papa is special, Jesse said. You both are, Rose said. The years continued to pass, each one a gift. Nathan's hair turned completely white, and Jesse's body softened with age, but they were still healthy and active. The ranch was doing well under Samuel's management, though Nathan still worked every day, unable to imagine retirement. In 1915, the world was embroiled in a terrible war in Europe, though it felt far away from their ranch in Colorado. Their grandson, Rose's oldest boy, wanted to enlist, and it terrified Jessie. He is only 19, she said to Nathan one morning while he brushed her hair. Too young to die in someone else's war. He is a man now, Nathan said gently. We cannot protect them forever. I know, Jessie said. But I want to. The grandson did enlist, and Jessie prayed every day for his safety. Nathan held her when she cried, and every morning he brushed her hair, giving her a moment of peace before the worry rushed back in. The grandson survived the war and came home changed but whole. Jessie held him and wept with relief, and Nathan quietly thanked God. In 1920, Jessie and Nathan celebrated their 36th wedding anniversary. They were in their late 50s now, slowing down but still active. The ranch had been passed to Samuel, though they still lived in the house and helped where they could. One morning in the autumn of that year, Nathan woke Jessie as always and sat her on the stool by the window. His hands were stiff with arthritis now, and the 100 strokes took longer than they used to, but he persisted. Does it hurt? Jessie asked, watching him in the mirror. A little, Nathan admitted, but not doing it would hurt more. We have been doing this for 37 years, Jessie said. Since before we were married. Best decision I ever made, Nathan said, offering to help with your hair that first time. Best decision I ever made was saying yes, Jessie said. Nathan finished braiding her hair and kissed the top of her head as he always did. I love you, Jessie Yates. I love you, Nathan Yates, Jessie replied. They went about their day, working in the garden, visiting with grandchildren, living the quiet life they had built together. That night, Nathan had trouble breathing, and Jessie sent Samuel for the doctor. The doctor examined Nathan and gave Jessie the news she had been dreading. Nathan's heart was failing. There was nothing to be done except keep him comfortable and wait. How long? Jessie asked, her voice breaking. Could be weeks, could be months, the doctor said. There is no way to know. Jessie sat by Nathan's bedside, holding his hand. You are not allowed to leave me, she said fiercely. I am not planning on it, Nathan said, but they both knew he could not control this. The next morning, Nathan insisted on getting out of bed. He was weak and unsteady, but determined. What are you doing? Jessie asked, trying to help him. Brushing your hair, Nathan said. Sit down. Nathan, you need to rest, Jessie protested. I need to do this more, Nathan said firmly. Jessie sat on the stool, tears streaming down her face, while Nathan brushed her hair with trembling hands. He had to stop several times to catch his breath, but he completed all 100 strokes. He braided her hair slowly, carefully, his fingers fumbling but refusing to quit. When he finished, he sat heavily on the bed, exhausted but satisfied. There, he said. That is better. You stubborn man, Jessie said, half crying, half laughing. You love me for it, Nathan said. I do, Jessie admitted. Nathan lived for 2 more months, his heart slowly giving out. But every single morning, no matter how weak he was, he got out of bed and brushed Jessie's hair. Some days he could barely stand and had to sit while he did it. Some days it took him an hour to complete the ritual because he had to rest so often, but he never missed a day. The family tried to convince him to stop, to conserve his strength, but Nathan refused. This is what I do, he told Samuel. This is who I am. I am the man who brushes his wife's hair every morning because her mama did it, and I will not stop." On a cold December morning in 1920, Nathan woke Jesse before dawn as always. He was so weak that Jesse had to help him to his feet, and she begged him to stay in bed. "Please, Nathan," she said. "You do not have to do this." "Yes, I do," Nathan said. "I promised." He brushed her hair, each stroke an act of love and will. His hands shook so badly that he could barely hold the brush, and tears ran down Jesse's face as she watched him in the mirror. He made it to 73 strokes before he collapsed. Jesse caught him and lowered him to the floor, cradling his head in her lap. "Nathan, please hold on. Samuel, get the doctor." But Nathan shook his head slightly. "It is all right," he whispered. "I am not afraid." "I am not ready to lose you," Jesse sobbed. "You will never lose me," Nathan said. "I will always be with you. Every time you brush your hair, I will be there." His eyes were so full of love that Jesse could barely stand it. "I love you so much," she said. "I love you too," Nathan said. "You made my life beautiful, Jesse. Every single day with you was a gift." He closed his eyes then, his breathing shallow and labored. Jesse held him and sang the old songs her mother used to sing, the ones he had hummed while brushing her hair all those years. She sang until his breathing stopped and he was gone. The family buried Nathan on the hillside next to Jesse's mother, under another cottonwood tree. Jesse stood at the grave and thought about the 20-year-old girl she had been, broken and alone, struggling with her tangled hair. She thought about the young cowboy who had offered to help, not knowing he was offering his whole heart along with it. "Thank you," she whispered to the cold ground. "Thank you for showing up every day. Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for loving me the way you did." After the funeral, Jesse could not bear to look at the hairbrush. She left it on the table by the window and did not touch it for weeks. Her hair went unbrushed and wild, and her family worried about her. Rose came to stay with her mother, bringing her daughters. One morning she found Jesse sitting by the window, staring at the brush. "Mama, let me help you," Rose said gently. "I do not know if I can bear it," Jesse said. "It will remind me too much of him." "Everything reminds you of him," Rose said. "That is what happens when you love someone that deeply. But Mama, Papa would not want you to stop taking care of yourself because he is gone." Jesse knew Rose was right. She sat on the stool and Rose picked up the brush, the same brush Nathan had used for 37 years. She began brushing Jesse's hair with long, gentle strokes, just the way her grandfather had taught her. Jesse closed her eyes and felt Nathan's presence. He was gone, but the love he had poured into this simple ritual remained. The tenderness, the commitment, the daily choice to show love in action, it was all still there. "Count them," Jesse said softly. 100 strokes, the way Papa did it." Rose counted quietly, and when she reached 100, she braided Jesse's hair with the same care Nathan had always used. When she was done, Jesse looked in the mirror and saw not just her grief, but also the evidence of a love that had sustained her for nearly 4 decades. "Thank you," Jesse said to Rose. "That was exactly right." After Rose returned home, Jesse began brushing her own hair each morning. It took practice to get the braid right, but she persisted, remembering how patient Nathan had been when teaching his daughters. She counted out the 100 strokes carefully, and in that quiet morning ritual, she felt connected to both her mother and her husband. She lived for many more years, watching her grandchildren grow and even meeting great-grandchildren. She told them all the story of the cowboy who brushed her hair every morning because her mama had done it, and he would not stop. She told them about real love, the kind that shows up day after day, that keeps promises even when it is hard, that finds joy in small rituals and builds a life from daily acts of tenderness. In her final years, when her hands became too weak to braid her own hair, Rose's daughter came to live with her and brushed it for her every morning, carrying on the tradition into another generation. Jessie died peacefully in her sleep in 1935, at the age of 72. Her children buried her next to Nathan on the hillside, and on her gravestone they inscribed, "Beloved wife and mother. She was loved well and returned that love 100-fold." At the funeral, Rose stood and told the assembled family about the mourning ritual that had defined her parents' marriage. She told them how Nathan had never missed a single day in 37 years, how he had brushed Jessie's hair even on his deathbed, because keeping that promise was who he was. "That is the legacy they left us," Rose said, tears streaming down her face. "Not the ranch or the land or any material thing. The legacy is knowing what real love looks like. It looks like showing up day after day. It looks like keeping your promises even when it is hard. It looks like 100 gentle brush strokes every morning, year after year, because you made a commitment to care for someone and you will not stop." The story of Nathan and Jessie became a family legend, passed down through generations. Their great-great-grandchildren, growing up in a world Nathan and Jessie could never have imagined, still heard the story of the cowboy who brushed his girl's hair every morning because her mama had done it, and he would not stop. And in that story, they learned what their ancestors had known, that love is not just a feeling but a choice, made new every single day. That the greatest romance is not in grand gestures but in small, consistent acts of care. That a life built on tenderness and kept promises is the richest life of all. The ranch still stood, though it had changed hands over the years. The house Nathan built was still there, and in it, in a place of honor, sat the hairbrush he had used for 37 years. It was a simple thing, worn smooth by use, but to the family it was sacred. It represented everything good about Nathan and Jessie's marriage, everything worth preserving and passing down. On the hillside where Nathan and Jessie were buried, wildflowers bloomed every spring. The cottonwood trees grew tall and strong, their leaves rustling in the wind like whispered conversations. And if you stood there quietly, you could almost feel it, the enduring presence of a love that had been lived well, a promise that had been kept, a cowboy who had brushed his girl's hair every morning and had never, ever stopped. The morning ritual that began in grief and loneliness had transformed into something beautiful and lasting. It had become the foundation of a marriage, the backbone of a family, and ultimately, a legacy of love that would outlast them all. Nathan and Jessie had built something more valuable than any ranch or fortune. They had built a partnership based on daily devotion, consistent care, and the kind of love that shows up even when it is hard. And that, their descendants knew, was the greatest treasure of all.